It's time to be woke. Take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy, and it is Wednesday, May the 12th, 2020 2.0, at least here in Canada, where we're lacking in vaccines, but not lacking in mental stress. Welcome. Glad you're watching. We have a reasonably exciting show for you. The only reason I say that is just because I'm here. But other than that, there is a more reasonably exciting person that I'd like to introduce right now, and that is lovely and talented Carrie Barber. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Andy. Remind me, you don't do our promos. Reasonably?
Reasonably, yes. I will endeavor to function adequately.
Okay, well, you're 2 steps ahead of me. I am heavily medicated this morning, so anything could absolutely happen, and just might.
You are medicated, and I should be.
So good morning, everybody. If this is your first time tuning in, we are live and interactive. Absolutely anything can happen. Sometimes it does. What that means for you is we encourage you to participate. Comments, questions. Particularly today. Today is fully interactive, and I want to warn you, no one will be spared in this particular broadcast. So it's okay. We're going to go through all of this together. So real quick before we get into it, good morning, Mike. Good morning, Pamela. Good morning. Oh, we got 2 mics on. Everybody from KRTD this morning tuning in. Thank you so much. From Rome's channel, thank you so much for tuning in.
Typically we have 2 turntables, but tonight we have 2 mics.
We do have, thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
So today we're going to play a game. We are absolutely going to play a game. And what I want you to do is, I have 3 examples here. I have 3. I have 1 more I'm sandbagging. But I want you to come up with your own examples of cognitive dissonance. And we're going to talk about all of this today. So as I go through my top 3, like I said, nobody's feelings are going to be spared in this. So,
basically, you've been bad, and now you're gonna pay, right? No. Carrie loves to teach lessons.
What?
Just this morning, I heard her say, "I'm going to teach you a lesson."
What? Okay.
Here it comes. Be ready.
Right, exactly. So
let's do our brain stretching exercises to start. Okay.
Yep. So Mike says, where is it at? Got 2 turntables and a microphone. Those are lyrics, aren't they? I'm terrible at that game.
Yes. Yes.
Terrible at that game. So.
Well, that's where it came from. I'll explain after the show.
Okay, thank you. Like, what? It's so hard. Okay, so first thing I want to cover, and let's get serious for a second here, because this actually ties into cognitive dissonance, but it's a headline and a tragedy, an ongoing tragedy. And I'm talking about the loss of life and aggressions going on in Israel and Palestine, between Israel and Palestine. I saw a tweet thread by a gentleman who was in a shelter with his 2 children. I don't have it for you, so I apologize. I don't have the link. Usually I post all my links. But this particular gentleman was in a shelter with his 2 children and his wife, and he was tweeting his thoughts as the air raids were going off and missiles were being fired across the barbed wire in the wall. And he was, what touched me about this, not only was he in the moment, full raw emotion, but he's like, I'm sitting here watching my children and I'm having to explain to them what's going on, and I love them dearly, but the entire time I'm here in a shelter, I keep thinking of the father on the other side of the wall where they don't have shelters. And I don't think that that father loves his children less. And he was so angry at the governments and policy. He was like, I feel for that father. I feel their pain. I feel everything that they're going through, and I want this to stop.
Yes.
And I think here's where it came into cognitive dissonance for me, because all over the media, particularly Yang Gang, I'm looking at you on this one, because when Andrew Yang tweeted out this really thoughtless commentary.
And tragically neoliberal.
Well, he has never changed, right? You can call him anything you want. He's still a full-on neoliberal.
I think there was a collective wah when the people who identify as progressives that are in the Yang camp, saw his true colors for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And that was, and I'm not making fun of those the people that were that way, because clearly, based on the knowledge that you have or been able to process, the reason I think that Yangers are advocating for UBI is because they think that that's a way to financially fix a lot of the problems in the United States, right? And I can't blame them for not having the correct information. I can help teach, but I should at least admit that those people at least want to help, right? They might not have the right information, but their heart's in the right place. And so that's another thing where if you're in the federal job guarantee camp, you talk down to people that advocate for UBI and vice versa, right? I'll use our friend Jen Perlman, who is in both camps, right? That thinks that we can attain both things, and they're both beneficial in coordination, right? I'm sorry, this is a little bit of off topic, but it's certainly relevant, and it's just another part of the cancel culture that we need to identify, because we need to figure out why we're all the same instead of different, right? And of course, you've heard me say that before 1 million.
Well, we're definitely going to get into some of the forced austerity as we in an unexpected example. So we're definitely going to talk about some of that. But for me, when I look at the Israel-Palestine issue, first, I remember growing up in the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. And I'm like, that's the same thing. That is exactly the same thing, but we don't call it apartheid. And I think we should. And then from the other perspective, and this is where I'm probably going to get canceled, but walk me through this logic, because we remember the Holocaust and the horror. And from my particular perspective, I have half of my family, fully half of my family is Polish, who came here in World War II to escape genocide. And the other half of my family is Irish, who came here to escape genocide from the potato famine. And for those of you who don't know, there was no potato famine in the UK, only in Ireland. It was genocide. So this is the UK trying to exterminate the Irish from certain parts of their own country. So coming from that, what I was taught of my history on both sides of my family, genocide is bad. Don't do it, right? So I grew up looking at genocide bad. And when I see other examples of genocide, I immediately go with bad. But then I'm looking at other people who go, well, there's a nuance to it. And that is exactly the topic that we have today, cognitive dissonance. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Andy, first graphic, if you would, please. So this is going to set the flavor for what we're doing. So I'm fairly certain that everybody's heard this term before. Usually it's used to admonish somebody else's logical fallacy. For those of you who didn't take debate in college, you may not know what a logical fallacy is, but cognitive dissonance, this is real. This is a theory. And by theory, I mean like gravity is a theory. So this is a theory that there is actual pain, emotional angst when you are confronted with facts that do not conform to your beliefs, right? So it's really easy for BlueMAGA to point at QAnon and say, oh, well, they have such cognitive dissonance, but come on now, BlueMAGA, we got some things to talk about here. And this is why I posted the link. And of course, all the links are there. So don't skip ahead because you'd be cheating. But for the cognitive dissonance, this was originally a theory that came out in 1957 in a book called The Theory of Cognitive Dissonance. And it was by a gentleman named Fessinger, Dr. Fessinger. He explained it in this way. Cognitive dissonance can be seen as an antecedent condition which leads to activity oriented toward dissonance reduction, just as hunger leads towards activity oriented to hunger reduction. So let me paraphrase that just a little bit. If I believe that the earth is flat, I am going to participate in activities that prove that the earth is flat and reject any data points that say that it's round. Because now I have either built up a corporation, making money off it. It is somehow integral to myself, my ego, that the earth is flat, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody got that? Okay. So then we can apply this particular concept into all sorts of things. And Andy and I here have talked about propaganda and the media and Operation Mockingbird and all of these things that lead you down the path of cognitive dissonance in politics. So I have always voted blue. Therefore, Team Red is awful. I have always voted Republican and I believe in X, Y, and Z, and Team Blue is awful, right? So these are examples of cognitive dissonance, when in reality, no one, particularly in this country, no one is either all conservative and all liberal. We vacillate between the two on a natural basis, either daily, weekly, when it comes to policy. This is where cognitive dissonance tends to fall away, particularly when you're talking to neighbors. Like if you sit down and explain to one of your neighbors what Medicare for All really is and how it works, and it's not a socialism, it's not a government takeover, it's merely regulation of private doctors and hospitals and controlling prices. There isn't anybody on either side of the aisle who would go, oh yeah, no, that's terrible. No, because we all have family. We all have a physical body that needs to be taken care of. And oh, by the way, we're going bankrupt and we're dying during a pandemic. So this is where cognitive dissonance starts to fall away, right? So we're going to get through a couple examples today. And again, if you have examples, so Mike has posted one. Oh, good morning, Shane. Mike has posted an example in our chat on our Facebook page. Logical fallacy reference, super useful in Facebook debates. And it's a post to imager.com. So those are really snarky, fun little rebuttals that you can do on Facebook. Okay, so all right, let's get into couple examples. I want to give you some examples and we'll go through why these are examples of cognitive dissonance. But if you've got one and you want to share it either on YouTube, Facebook, or things like that, happy to entertain it and go through that conversation. So the next one on this one, Andy, is the factors of influence. So this is a little bit more detail on how this works in our brains, right? So this is where kind of labeling comes in. So if you have a religious affiliation, you remember, now I'm aging myself, but Salman Rushdie got into a lot of trouble when he did something. He wrote a book and it was negative of a particular religion, and some of the extremists of that religion decided that they were going to kill him. Well, he's still walking around. But this happens often enough in the US and in other countries. if it's something that you have identified with, you are this thing, like you are your job. If you lose your job, now you're screwed, right? So what are you going to be next? What are you going to do next? Or is it depression? All of these things. If it's your religion and something happens where a member of your religion does something terrible, are you now a terrible person? How does this work? Same thing goes with politics. If you consider yourself a conservative or a liberal or anything in between, and a member of your team does something terrible, does that make you terrible? And how do you rationalize these things? Does that person represent you, or are they human? And did they just fail? Okay. Mike provides another, it's a spicy example. ACAB, but only police need AR-15s. And for those of you who don't know, ACAB stands for all cops are bastards, right? But only police need AR-15s. Okay, so there's a really good example when it comes to limiting who can own weaponry. And if you caught our broadcast on Monday, we talked about that with the Black Panthers and where original gun laws out of California came from. So,
which was very illuminating.
Oh boy, yeah. If you didn't see that, please go back and watch the Monday episode with the new African Black Panther leaders, the White Panthers, and the new Latin Kings. They've got an event coming up on Friday that if you're anywhere in New Jersey, New York area, in the tri-state area, you should probably go to this particular event because it's going to be an historic event. So we'll have some more information on that too. So, but this just kind of runs through what it is. So, okay, everybody braced, you ready? We're going to go through, and this one is a little heartbreaking for me, but Andy, this is example 1.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I saw this, and I saw this on it was a Facebook post of a friend of mine. I actually know the people that I'm friends with on Facebook, and he's younger. I'm getting to the point where a lot of people are younger than me, so he's much younger than I am. And he posted this, and the way that he saw it and the way that I saw it were two entirely different ways. So this is by someone named Lucina Skywalker.
Now, did they use their phone to post this or the Force?
We're gonna go with the Force. Absolutely the Force on this one. So
okay, all right.
So there, when he read it, he was like, so you get the whole thing where the younger generation has been blamed for avocado toast, and they're killing the diamond market because they're not buying diamonds and they're not going on vacation. And
don't forget the famous, they're offended by everything.
Only them, right?
Yes.
Only them.
Yes, they're offended. They're just, why do people have to be so offended?
Yeah.
Because we weren't when we were kids.
Oh. Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay, boomer.
That's exactly. Well, let's not offend the boomers either. So, but because this is actually a story about them too, right? So when you look at this, they're like, oh, we're never going to retire. And so I went out and looked at retirement savings just in the US right now, today. And oh boy, less than 50% of all Americans today have about $100,000 in savings. That's today. So these are your seniors and everything else. So only 50% have anything put away, and about 100,000 is nowhere near enough to survive. Nowhere. So I looked it up and I posted a link here. According to the Trans-American Center for Retirement Studies, the median retirement savings by age in the US goes like this. Somebody in their 20s at a median is at 16,000. In their 30s is at 45,000. In their 40s is at 63,000. And those in their 60s right now today have a median of 172,000 put away. That's nowhere near enough to survive. So when you take a look at this particular piece, just from where we are today, yeah, it looks like, oh boy, everybody's kind of screwed. But the way that I looked at this is where I cringed. 30 years from now, does anybody hazard a guess of where we'll be in 30 years?
In a burning planet, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. So I looked at this and my initial thought was I felt nauseous because this person doesn't know where they are. I feel like, going back to the mall where you had that really nice map and it said you are here. This person doesn't know where they are and doesn't know where we're at. And I always feel like I should be wearing a tinfoil hat because what I'm about to say sounds crazy. And yet all the evidence is here. So what am I talking about? Annie and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. This is something that I always monitor because it's important to me. Water is particularly important to me. And I went out and looked last night at the US drought coverage map. And it said exactly what I expected it to say. We are approaching right now in May, and this was dated May 4th, 2021. 42% of the country, the United States, continental United States right now, 42% has approaching record levels of drought. I'm going to say that again so that you understand. 42% of the United States has drought levels approaching record levels in May. Why is this maybe of a concern? So when you look at the map, and I posted a link to it, Wisconsin, Illinois, Idaho, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, what is that? My geography. The Dakotas are out, parts of Colorado, Kansas. Those are all the states that we rely on for our food production, particularly when it comes to agricultural non-meat producers. For the meat producers, the big meat producers, that's Florida, California, Texas, Colorado, parts of Nevada, and the Dakotas. They are at catastrophic level drought right now. So when I'm looking at this tweet from this person who's obviously younger, and it's being shared by younger folks, my heart breaks because I know what's coming. I see it happening right now. And I feel like the cognitive dissonance is coming from, well, if it was really this severe, if it was really true, then our leadership would be doing something about it. And I want to stress to you that they are doing something, but it's not going to benefit you. And I would suggest that maybe you look back at the last year of the pandemic for a glimpse of what the plan is. It's not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit your community. And then for those of you who are still looking at the Paris Agreement, I would invite you to go and look at the critique of the climate scientists who for the last 4 years have published a scathing rebuke of what the Paris Agreement has achieved and what those membership countries have actually done. There's no easy way to say it on this one. If you are still thinking that you're in your 20s and you're going to get to retire in some traditional sense, no, it's not going to happen. For those of you who are approaching retirement now, it's not going to happen.
Right. And we've seen the evidence clearly. And one thing that most people don't know, because we've come to at least an understanding for a lot of people that, we're in for a climate catastrophe. And it's perhaps an extinction level event way before we thought it was going to happen, right? In talks with, you know, economists that are watching this, that are studying this, and my example is Stephen Hale of Australia and Phil Lawn. The two of them are ecological economists, and one point that really floored me when I heard it was that although we now at least know, and the scientific community has been saying it over and over, and at least on the left, you know, people are starting to understand, and we have groups that are, you know, advocating for changing to renewable energy sources and all of these things. Every single year since all of this came out in the 2015-2016 time period, every single year has been a new record for carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Like, you would think that the understanding of this, and with the Paris Accord and other things and other governments trying to do things, that at least the amounts would start to even a little bit go down. It's not the case. Every single year since we started hearing about this from the scientific community has been another record year for greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
And this is the global cognitive dissonance we're in. We're like, you know, same thought process as like children. You know, if somebody was trying to break into our house, our parents would do something. Surely they wouldn't sit on the couch and go, well, we're going to sacrifice 2 of our 3 kids. But that's exactly what's happening.
Right. Now I should say there is a caveat to that because of the pandemic, 2020 was, you know, a better year, but that's just wasn't because of good faith actors. It was because people weren't doing as much, right? It was basically Mother Nature's way of saying, well, you guys aren't doing anything, so I'm gonna at least give me a chance to try, right? So.
Exactly. And I think that if you look back and you see that the air quality improved, that water quality improved, that certain things, this should have been the aha moment for everyone going, wait a second, we do have a chance here.
But because we absolutely could do it, right? We just proved we could do it. But the talk with the Biden administration, you know, with the election and everything about the vaccines and people opening up, and we just want to get back to normal. Well, normal is destroying the planet.
That's exactly right. We cannot afford normal. We have to move forward. And
right.
I'm delighted to see that it is happening at a local level, not necessarily policy level. Policy will follow, or we need to get the addicts out of.
Right. And we also see people that are responsible for a lot of this in the capitalists, right? Like Elon Musk, who don't be confused. This guy is not in your corner. He is out there to be one of the richest people in the world, doesn't really care about you or the planet, just wants to be rich, right? That he is now offering, you know, grant money to people that are going to be possibly looking into research into CO2 collectors in the atmosphere, right? So let's not use the technology we have to curtail the destruction that we're doing. Let's react to it so nobody loses any money, right? Mm-hmm. And that should scare the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, that's addicts. Just like drug addicts, this is the same kind of behavior. So we're running short on time, Andy. Let's get to number 2, because number 2 hits very close to home for me. All right, number 2, cognitive dissonance. Okay, for those of you who don't know how Catholicism works in the United States, it's a little crazy for many reasons. Number 1, I'm a Catholic. I am a dyed-in-the-wool Catholic, and it was a choice that I made as an adult doing research, and this is the path that I chose. So choose your own path, no faith, whatever. But I want to cover this particular example because my faith has nothing to do with, as my husband says, the fat old guys in dresses who sit at the UCCB. USCCB. That is the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops. I very rarely have I ever agreed with them on anything, and they are not necessarily following the catechism, and I'll explain why. So there are two bishops in California who are having a bit of a tiff. And this kind of made the news, and as a Catholic,
darn, I thought this was going to be a joke. I thought you were going to say they walked into a bar.
No, they
two bishops walk into a bar. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry for interrupting.
That's all right. So the bishop in San Francisco is like, we anybody in the Biden administration, particularly Pelosi and Biden, who are advocates for abortion, should not be allowed to have communion. Well, that's a big deal, right? You're basically putting a limit on their participation of the sacraments of a church. If you're Catholic, that's a really big deal. But the bishop down in San Diego was like, wait a second, let's not make this tenet of the church, the pinnacle of our faith, a political football. So these two are having issues back and forth. So as a Catholic, the first question I had was, wait a second, where were you when Bill Barr, who is also a Catholic, brought back the death penalty for the federal crimes and all the bullshit that was going on with xenophobia? And we're like, oh, well, they issued a statement, but they never withheld any tenets of the church. And so here's where I, as a Catholic, I just want to go and I'm feeling violent. Like I want to smack these guys around, which I should not do. So now I got to go to confession. But so the one guy said, to those who are advocating for abortion, I would say, this is killing. Please stop the killing. And you're in a position to do something about it. That right there, I went, what? Okay, so forced austerity that adds to so much suffering and death in this country alone, as well as the imperialism, that's okay. But the abortion question tends to overlook some really key facts here. Like, for example, and I posted these, so do bear with me for a second here. In 2008, when Colorado made contraceptives free, the abortion rate dropped by 40%, like that in the first year. In 2012, another study came out that said free birth control reduces abortion rates astronomically. In 2013, the Barnes Jewish Organization Newsroom published a study by the University of Michigan. The first one talked about how abortion rates would drop by almost 78% in the advent of ACA. And this made access a little bit easier for folks who are seeking healthcare. Not great, but it made it easier, 78%. And then in 2017, the University of Michigan published another study that said access to birth control through the ACA drives abortion rates down. So the cognitive dissonance here is you have fat old men in dresses discussing the abortion rate and condemning people when they themselves have been silent about how things are going here in the United States. So if you support a program like Medicare for All that not only affects genocide through policy here in the country, but also eliminates the abortion rate almost entirely, why would you not speak on that? And they are completely silent on that, as well as so many other social ills. Yet for me as a Catholic, I'm like, wait a second, the book of Acts, the first 3 chapters is nothing but socialism. And where are you on that? Because our catechism says we should be supporting that. But you're talking about this old thing over here from the 1950s. Yeah. We're in 2021 right now. So if you are a conservative, maybe you're not Catholic, maybe you think they're cultists, whatever, but you're anti-abortion and not pro-life, here's your sign. This is cognitive dissonance.
Yes. Yes, it's interesting how that whole thing that you can be anti-contraception, but still be anti-abortion. So we're going to, if you have sex, right, you can't use contraception, but if the contraception isn't there to protect you from getting pregnant, you can't have an abortion either, right? It's kind of a little bit of a logical step error there.
Well, and so from a Catholic perspective, the Catholic birth control is like the calendar and the rhythm method. You're not supposed to use birth control, although the Pope before the one we have now, for those keeping score, he said it's better to use a condom than pass along an STD or a life-threatening thing. So we're kind of up in the air in it, but these are the same fat old guys in dresses, and I'm so gonna get in trouble for that.
Sure.
Fat old guys in dresses who say that Viagra is okay because that's pro-life, but fertilization through medical means is not. So I have always had a with that one.
Yes. Are you the pot or the kettle? I can't remember.
Right, exactly. So here's an example of cognitive dissonance that really plays a part in who we are. I would love to see these guys come out in favor of policies that actually save lives. And oh, by the way, achieve the goals that you say that you believe in, right? Don't condemn us for abortions, particularly when the people who are getting abortion, and one of the things I love is when you have abortion workers, the nurses and doctors, retell the stories of women who come in who they themselves are pro-life and against abortion, and will say, you're going to burn in hell, to the person who's holding their hand while they're having a procedure done. Right. So this is all part and parcel to it. And if we really wanted to solve this issue, we would, maybe look at some things that actually help that. So Mike's having a field day in our chat here. Yeah, he says, Andy, two bishops of the same side could never meet up. They move diagonally in different squares. So nice. Nice
see, I was never a chess person. I just couldn't get into it. Sorry.
It's all right. So, and then there's another comment that says, almost if giving people the tools they need to prevent unwanted pregnancy prevents the abortion of unwanted fetuses. Yeah, that's exactly how.
Well, if there weren't unwanted fetuses, the right would have no one to protect. Right? Because as soon as you're born, you're on your own, according to them.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm just about out of time here. So, example number 3, and this one, we're having the commentary right now. Hey, good morning, Amber. You are so late. We have.
Oh my God, Amber, where have you been?
All this time, and you were like 45 minutes late. Way to go, Amber. No, just kidding. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for saying good morning, my lovelies. So the last example that I want to give here is this whole dichotomy behind let's not pay workers a livable wage, and oh my God, they don't want to work for us. This is free market. And yeah, and I think, and Andy, you know this, we are going to bring on Dr. Fadal Kaboub again to talk about this at length, because I think it warrants a good conversation about how this last year has redefined and helped us all reset on what work is. So I think that is absolutely the last example. And then I have one more that I was sandbagging, but I just want to tell this out now. Amber says she was making a Bloody Mary. Did you bring enough to share with everyone, Amber? Did you?
Well, hopefully she doesn't have a roommate named Mary.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. So my last example, and this is Andy, my apologies. This is for you.
It is for me. All right.
So I don't have a slide prepared for this one, but I do want to share this particular information now. If you are in the progressive space, and that's neither left nor right, that is siding with people with fiscal policy in the progressive space, and you, like me, were thrilled on March 17th because Medicare for All was introduced again in this brand new Congress, and that bill number was HR 1976. Thrilled. Okay, we're going to get somewhere. I regret to inform you that today is now 56 days since Medicare for All has been introduced into the House and has no movement on it whatsoever. Nothing has been done. It's just sitting there collecting dust. None of the 117 co-sponsors have bothered to put this forward onto an agenda for a hearing in any of the seven committees that this bill now must pass through in order for it to survive. It is now May, 56 days later, 7 committees, 7 different hearings. This has to pass through before it ever comes back to a House floor vote. There's your cognitive dissonance if you're in the progressive space and you thought that these people who were going to fight for us in a policy that not only saves money for the country, saves money for businesses, saves money for families, and saves lives. It also preserves doctors' autonomy, doctors and nurses, so that they can get back to doctoring and not still be regulated to the policies of what are literally death panels. They're statisticians who are dictating how doctors can operate. If you were a supporter of any of that, this is your cognitive dissonance. To think that those people who said they were going to do something were actually going to do something without us pushing it. And so far, I don't see anyone else talking about it. So I'm going to keep talking about it. Today is 56 days. Nothing has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Is there a statute of limitations on this bill? I don't know how Americans work.
No. What happens
is sit there forever?
It could sit there forever. So each congressional session is 2 years, and it has to get through all 7 committees and go for a floor vote and then be voted in on the House. And then on the Senate side, it has to either go to the Senate or the Senate has to have a counterpart, and then we do a reconciliation. So while this is being delayed on one side and there's nothing on the Senate side, yeah, that's exactly it. So I keep checking my watch, and I know it's so rude, but I gotta think. So I gotta, yeah. Thank you.
Listen, we'll wrap it up. Wrap it up, baby.
Okay, so one more comment. Employers during the pandemic, we need to fire you so that we can make enough money to survive. Workers after. I won't work for minimum wage. It's not enough to survive. Employers, shocked Pikachu JPEG. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. So Pamela joined this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for sharing this. I appreciate it. This was a super fast exercise into cognitive dissonance, and we're going to have more. And yes, we have already booked, confirmed, and we're going to hold him to it. Dr. Kaboog will come back. And Amber says he is a super ninja. So yes,
actually he is. He is a super ninja. Oh yes, he is the only academic out there that's a MMT advocate that feels as comfortable in his activist T-shirt as he does his professor suit and tie. He said he's kind of like a super double spy. Kind
of, except he's a good guy. So.
Well, that doesn't. Spy doesn't denote badness. You know, we could call him we'll call him a double superhero. How's that?
Double superhero ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So just real quick, what's coming up on Friday? We are delighted. We are going to have the executive director of KRTV network here, Shane Coughlin. Shane is going to tell us all about what the hell they're doing at KRTD, because there's some amazing things going on over there. And then we want to talk about the event coming up on May 22nd, this super conference of which Andy and I are participants. This is a 5-6-part series, and it's all about solutions, not just bitching, but you got to come to the table with solutions and talk about real policy and things like this. So I am super stoked for Friday to have that on, to have Shane join us for that. Plus, I will have a rundown of all the events coming up that week. The one in New Jersey, there's one in Chicago, LA, a couple different events. If you are anywhere near these cities, you might want to consider making time this weekend to at least support, if not physically be there. So yes, there's that. So Andy, that's what I got.
I just got something real quick before we go. Just wanted to congratulate one of our viewers. Amber, congratulations on your very first article. It's an article that came out, very well written. It's this about the semiconductor shortage. It's on Beyond the Spectrum. You can see it there. Hoping to see more great things come from her as she stretches her literary legs. So that's a wonderful
fantastic
thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm still in the process of reading it because I got distracted with some other personal stuff. So Amber, I'm probably going to reach out to you next week and say, come talk about it. Rather than talking about your article, we would prefer that you come talk about your article and why you wrote it. So
sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you got to go, Carrie. So we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much. I hope everybody enjoyed our show today. Thank you so much for watching. And we are going to head out, but we will see you again early on Friday morning. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone. We out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Habit the dog. We keep it in G.